So it's true, I've never actually spoken at an eMetrics conference before, and there's really two reasons, frankly, Jim, that I haven't. The first reason is that certainly in the earlier days when I was running around a lot trying to build eMarketer, and most of your conferences were in the West Coast, you are from San Diego, I was not sure I could afford the time away from the office and the flight time and all that. And then, irony of ironies, I was, because I was thrilled when you said, hey, it was going to be right here in New York, bringing it, in essence, to me. It turns out that I had to accept another invitation to speak in San Jose yesterday, so I took a red-eye, irony of ironies, to get here today. So I've had no sleep. This is why we love Starbucks, or at least I do. The second obstacle was Jim is a brilliant presenter and a brilliant person when it comes to metrics. Is anybody in metrics here? Just check. If not, there's a great conference right down the hall that you might want to, it's about dentistry or something. So I didn't feel in my heart of hearts, being a kind of a numbers guy, but not really a metrics guy, at least in your sense of the word, and so I really didn't think I was up to the task. And then finally I decided, I really want to get on Jim's stage, I really want to do it justice, so I wrote a book. Okay, I didn't really write the book just for you, Jim, but you got to laugh, right? Yeah. And I cheated, because I didn't write the whole book myself. Vipin Meyer is, in fact, the real expert when it comes to what we're going to call performance measurement. So, all that aside, we're here, I'm here today, we're here today. Is anybody ready to have some fun? Hey! Wow, you're even better than the audience in San Jose. You must have had more coffee. They're a little quieter. Let's start with this fundamental set of questions that is dogging most marketers today. These are the questions that we really haven't figured out. They relate to online, but it's much bigger than that. It relates to really all of media. That is a lack of adequate metrics and measurement systems to drive marketing performance. This, in fact, was the impetus for the book. Vipin Meyer came to me and said, hey, would you like to write a book? And I said, no. He then took me out for a 3-hour lunch, no martinis, and we decided to write the book largely because of performance measurement. I knew that it needed to be fixed, even though if I wasn't the expert in that subject matter. The second thing is that there's this frustration with how to effectively engage with consumers today, because really that's what we're trying to do as marketers, right? Not just look at a set of numbers. How do we engage with them when their attention spans are so distracted, they're doing simultaneous media consumption, they are basically resistant to advertising messages like never before. So how do you actually engage with them? And we'll learn the secrets to both of these. Secret number one, of course, as I said before, is about the need for performance measurement. So looking at the need for accountability, eMarketer likes to look at stats, so I'll throw a couple at you. This is from the Forney's marketing group, and found that 3/4 of CEOs believe marketers lack business credibility. Ouch, ooh, that doesn't feel good. And this is the marketers themselves. 63% of marketers believe marketing ROI, right, will be the most important measure of their success in 2015, and yet only 44% feel prepared to be held accountable for it. So we have a little gap here in the future as well as right now, because that gap is even bigger right now. In fact, let's kind of evoke the feeling that most marketers, particularly at the senior level, feel about data and analytics and all the stuff that it takes to measure marketing campaigns. All right? And overlaying this fear is this frustration, because you practically have to have a PhD in statistics just to understand what your marketing programs are doing, is the demands from up top, the CEO and the CFO, to account for, yes, every dollar that you spend in marketing, what kind of return on investment am I getting for that? And it's B2C companies, it's B2B companies, it's every vertical segment. Basically, I've been talking about this for years, and nobody's ever said, no, Jeff, that's really not a problem. We just throw $50 million out there and see what happens. No, that's not happening. It leads certain marketers to consume certain beverages. All right? We all have a little agita from what's going on with all this. There's just so many different numbers to look at. And then when you overlay that with this thing, have you heard that there's a recession? Yeah, it's still going on. That leads other people to a different beverage, but we're not here to talk about that. Maybe later. Is there a coffee hour, or sorry, a cocktail hour later? Yeah, very good. So just kind of teeing you up nicely for that. I love the way Bob Liadis, who's the head of the Association of National Advertisers, put it so succinctly when he said, the challenge is, prove to me that it works. Prove to me that it works in both the short term and, importantly, the long-term deliverables. The short term, not just the nanosecond of a click, but over time, are we moving the dial in terms of consumer sentiment, brand consideration, right down to, yes, the actual purchase and repurchase and brand loyalty and lifetime value and all those good things that you guys know more than I do. All right? So let's take a quick look at what's at stake here. How many dollars are we talking about, Jeff? Well, in fact, we're talking about 157 billion media advertising dollars. This is above the line, television, radio, print, outdoor, indoor, whatever that is, digital, etc. So 157 billion, that's an eMarketer figure. Outsell, having a broader definition of media marketing, includes marketing, whatever they want to include in that, direct mail and a whole bunch of other things. So that's 368 billion. And then if you include Verona Suler and some of the other mega watchers out there of media and marketing, all of marketing communications, we're talking about $1 trillion. Now, I know that's nothing compared to our national debt, but you know, it's a big number. I knew you'd get that. Within that pie is $31 billion that is spent on digital marketing, or advertising, I should say, in the US. $31 billion. It doesn't include the 60 to 70 billion that's spent on websites and all the back office stuff that requires to run that. But what's increasingly happening is that the internet is seen as a hub, because it's where more and more of consumers are spending their time and engagement throughout the day, during at work as well as at home. It is a huge purchase influence. We all know that between 80 and 90% of purchases, depending on your product category, are researched online, even if they end up being purchased in an offline situation. Right now, online is about 20%, 1/5, 19.9% to be specific, of total media in 2011. And next year, you can tweet this, next year in 2012, digital will match, or actually surpass, newspapers and magazines combined in terms of spending. That is a huge kind of milestone. I remember when internet surpassed outdoor. We were like, woohoo, at 5 billion. So basically, it's also the media measurement hook, because you run a campaign on television or radio or whatever, you know, some of these other traditional media. And what you often find is that, or hopefully your engineering cross-media platform campaign, is that you can measure whether there's engagement going on through a mobile device, through a website. You are able to discern granularly whether there is engagement through the digital medium. So in a sense, the internet is the power of one medium to rule them all. Okay, maybe I'm getting just a little ahead of myself, but you get the sense. This is increasingly how marketers are seeing it. I don't know how many conferences, like yesterday when I was in San Jose, this is a very large B2B company in the lighting business, who creates this whole 2 or 3 day event called a digital summit. Digital summits are happening all over the place. Right in the hotel, I'm looking at some kind of flyer that's there on the reception desk, and it's for the thousands of Adobe employees who are going to be there the next day for a digital summit. So it's happening all over the place. All right, moving on. Jeff, can you tell us what is the spending growth rate for online advertising? We said it was 31 billion in 2011. In fact, we're predicting 20%. We came up with this estimate in June of this year. You're probably thinking, Jeff, you know, there's this recession thing going on. What is it that your analysts drink when they come up with numbers like double-digit 20% growth rate? Well, in fact, if you look at the other research sources, which eMarketer uniquely does, we are transparent. We look at every single source imaginable, 4,000 sources we look at. And in this case, there's about, you know, almost a dozen different research sources. They're all showing double-digit growth. And as I argued in June, we will start to see by the end of this year these numbers pop up. Because not because we're so prescient, but we do look at trends. We look at the big players in the market like Yahoo and MSN and Google and so on. And we look at their SEC filings, their earnings, and we measure bottoms up what's really going on there. So this is a reality-based projection. And by the way, we benchmark against the Interactive Advertising Bureau. So when they come up with new sets of numbers like they just did, reporting on first half, up 23%. And if you allow for maybe just a little smidge of erosion in online ad spending, given the global economic morass we're in, you probably are going to get pretty close to 20%. So we're sticking with our 20%. So keep that in mind, 20% growth. Where is the digital growth coming from? Well, it ain't really coming from the whole media pie, which we're estimating is, not even us, but lots of others are now coming in. They've downgraded their estimates from about 3 to 5% growth to about 1.4 to 1.6% growth. Sir Martin Sorrell, we always love to hear from him, says the watchword is caution. Actually admitted they were nervous, right? Then there was this, we had these numbers, we look at not only internet numbers, we look at total media spending because of course it all has to integrate. And this happened to appear in the Wall Street Journal. What you see is TV is continuing to rise in terms of ad spending, 60 billion plus market. But you see a steady decline in newspapers and magazines. And look, internet going up largely at the expense of newspapers and magazines. It's not coming from television, it's coming from newspapers and magazines, and some other things as well. And in fact, that's corroborated by this source. This is the Society of Digital Agencies, whatever that means. Brand marketers worldwide who plan to shift funds from traditional to online, 3/4 said, yep, that's where it's coming from. So it's not a bigger pie, it's borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And Paul is the internet, just to clarify. So let's get back to the book. I love to get back. Secret number 2 gets at the problem of engagement with digital consumers. And this is a thorny problem indeed. If you thought performance measurement was tough, this is even tougher. This is your consumer today. She is very distrusting of you, marketers, and we see this trend over time get worse and worse. The numbers in terms of the perception of advertising as a practice, infinitesimally low. I think it's just above used car salesmen and below insurance. I mean, it's not a pretty picture, all right? And then you see statistics like this, and we can argue whether this is true or not, but 43% of consumers said they ignore or disregard banner ads more than any other medium. And then there is that acute affliction. And I think a fund should be started to help people who have this affliction. It is a really terrible disease, and I hope you don't succumb to it. Yes, it's called banner blindness. Won't you give today? So, with that in mind, I'm going to propose something pretty radical, which is what we talk about in the book, which is that the interruption-disruption model, where we interrupt this programming to sell you stuff you're probably not interested in, at least not right now, right? To distract you from the program that you came to see in the first place. This was born out of the television era, right? But it happens in radio. It happens in the internet when you get 15 pop-ups or 50 ads on the page and your eye is just trying to go to the content you came to in the first place. It's borrowed interest or attention. We're arguing that it doesn't go away entirely. Paid media is not dead. Please don't tweet that and have everybody kill me. It's just that it's going to diminish in importance. Seth Godin said it very well at a conference about a year ago. He says, advertising is no longer about blasting the most messages to the most people. It's about this. Ideas, creative ideas that spread are the winners. There's that viral component. And then you've got one of the largest global marketers in the world, Pepsi, where the CMO said, we need to create experiences, not just sponsor content. No longer can we sit back and just say, oh, brought to you by Pepsi, right? They want to create experiences, and marketers in the B2C and B2B world are desperately trying to do that. So we coined a phrase. Marketers are focusing on, we call it magnetic content. This is content that is so compelling, interesting in its own right, useful, entertaining, that people not only welcome it, they look for more of it, and they want to share it with others. How high a bar is that? Let's take a look at an example. Okay, everybody's seen the Evian rollerbladers. I'm not going to run this. We've all seen this. 50 million views. I just checked today. Okay, 49 point whatever million, but 50 million views, right? all on the YouTube channel, not on TV. One of the best product shots I've ever seen is the babies, go in and out of the bottles there. Why? Because it's fun to watch. You want to share this with other people. How many people have seen this one? Cheech and Chong's Mad. Of course, I know Jim has. This is fantastic. It's Cheech and Chong come back from the 70s with their drugs, sex, and rock and roll that we all know and love them from, right? It's a hilarious 2.5-minute video, right? Wait a second. Magic brownies? It's actually Fiber One for my generation. It works because I remember them and I want to watch. It's very funny. Guys, what's amazing though is this is from General Mills. Cheech and Chong, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What is going on here? Because they actually get it. You have to entertain, you have to get people's attention. You can't borrow it anymore. They very, very subtly and cleverly weave in the product and get the product benefit in there. You don't forget it, but you're laughing all the way to the bank. Another example, this isn't funny, but it's useful, is North Face, which makes, ski jackets and stuff, created an app for avid skiers so you can download it and then understand what the snow conditions are going to be at Mount Vernon tomorrow. Pretty cool. That's an example of utility. So to clarify, it's more about attraction than distraction, which is what most ads are about. Another way to think of it is that magnetic content turns the entire targeting approach on its head. Think of the proverbial needle in the haystack as your consumer you're trying to reach. You get all your data and analytics together to really fine-tune and target that particular customer based on whatever demographic profile you might have or lifestyle. I don't care. So you target it. But what if, instead of going through the haystack trying to find that consumer or the needle, you pulled out this big fat magnet? What happens? Well, of course, the needle goes to the magnet. But not only that, there's this little added plus, which is that if you create really good magnetic content that's really funny, compelling, or useful, or what have you, you will pull out of the woodwork or the haystack all kinds of other people that are interested in your magnetic content and therefore potentially your brand as well. But you would have never found them or targeted them because, oh, well, they just don't fit my profile. Well, who gives a crap? If they want your product and they're interested in your brand because of your magnetic content, bring it on. So that's how you can get some scale. We'll talk more about that later. I love this. There's even research that supports the book. Types of interactions that U.S. new media users, aren't we all new media users, when engaging with companies. The very bottom of the list, this is how they want to be engaged, the very bottom of the list is, oh, please market to me. Send me a banner ad. How many people wake up waiting for a banner ad to hit them? I just can't wait to get online and get that pop-up. Oh. Okay. But higher on the list is offer me incentives. Okay, in this recessionary environment, we can understand that. Solve my problems. Customer service, experience, right? And then entertain me, like General Mills is doing. We actually want brands to entertain us? Heck yeah. We want to be entertained, period. When you think about it, it's kind of like the analogy of two sports. We, in marketing, love to use targeting, and it's really like hunting kind of vernacular, right? So we're targeting the consumer, and we blast ads at them, hoping that something will stick. And we can, take this to the nth degree and be really targeted and so on, but we're really hoping that the message sticks, right? We argue that it's not about hunting, it's about fishing. A more patient exercise where the real focus is on finding the best bait. The best bait being that magnetic content that draws the fish out of the water to you. There are plenty of big brands that you've heard of, like Clorox and Procter & Gamble and Fiat. We all know the examples that are using magnetic content. But there's also tons of smaller companies that you've never heard of that are spending very little money and getting a lot of bang for the buck and a lot of reach and retail distribution and all kinds of good stuff by using these digital media, by creating great magnetic content. The bar for creativity gets that much higher. I know at this point, is anybody in the room in a business-to-business world? A bunch of you, good. You're probably wondering, Jeff, this is all fine and well with all these consumer examples, but I don't really know if this applies to me in my B2B world. Does content marketing work in the B2B world? How about this presentation? I'm a business, you're a business, B2B. I thought that was kind of funny. All right, at least it's true. All right. Think of all the white papers and newsletters B2B folks put out over the years, right? Now we have webinars. We have e-newsletters. We've got online video. We've got Twitter, Facebook. All these things, they are new tools in the B2B arsenal to create magnetic content. I did an entire presentation yesterday about B2B and magnetic content, and I don't have time for that today, so just trust me, it's there. All right. 5 criteria for magnetic content. You really have to understand what is it that it takes to get to magnetic content. The first 2 most important things, if you do nothing else, make sure it's unique. Copycats, no. That's not going anywhere. Is it useful? Does it serve some valuable purpose? And I mean a real purpose in the consumer's life. We also look at, is it well executed? Is it fun? And finally, does it make good use of the channel in which it appears? I like to ask this fundamental, basic question. Would I personally want to receive this magnetic content, assuming I'm in the target, right, and share it with others? If the answer is no, well, congratulations, you've just produced another ad. Good luck with that. And it might work. But it won't work as well if you create great magnetic content. Again, the premium on the creative execution is that much higher. We need to see less ads like this, and probably a few more like this. This was successful because it was unique. Yep. Certainly fun. I shared it with a whole bunch of people, and we must have sat at one point of another family in ours. There was 6 kids of us all together. We probably spent 15 or 20 minutes on vacation watching this with somebody. What's that worth to a brand? And it was also extremely well executed, right? At this point, Jim is wondering, don't you love it when I just tell you what your thoughts are? You have any more examples of brands being useful? How many people have kids in the room? I do too. I've got 4 of them, and this is my 4th. This guy gets more mess on him when he eats than I've seen all of my other 3 kids combined. In this case, it's ice cream. He loves that stuff. So that's why Clorox came up with this, the My Stain app. No matter where you are, you can pull up your app. Oh my gosh, little Johnny spilled ice cream or soda on himself. How do I get that stain out? And this could be gum. And the neat thing is, sometimes the solution is a Clorox product. This is a bleach company. But sometimes it's club soda or something else you find around the house. What they got right was they said it's not about pushing Clorox products, it's about serving the customer's needs beyond the product itself. That's the challenge. So we talked about, is it useful, but then we come back to, is it working? Is something actually happening? Is it moving the dial? There are just too many metrics out there. I mean, some marketers and advertisers look at hundreds of metrics, and they're just in this dizzy spell all day long, trying to drink coffee, trying to figure it out. What we argue in the book, and I don't have time to go through all of them now, but I will talk about a couple of them, is that there are 7 key metrics to master. 7. We tried to simplify, get it right down to 7. You identify those 7 and you put them in the right framework, and you're going to have success on your hands. The framework that we talk about is a hierarchical series of buckets to capture information about the consumer. At the very lowest level, where most marketers just kind of get stuck, is the exposure metrics. Okay? Exposure metrics are those low-level metrics related to the performance of individual channels. How many clicks did I get? You know, just really low-level impression-based kind of stuff. Strategic metrics happen over time. These are related to long-term brand health issues. Over time, are people more aware of your brand, more inclined to purchase it, more favorable to your brand versus competitors? Again, this does not happen in the nanosecond of a click. This needs to be measured in like pre and post surveys to find out, are over time, over months, or in case B2B examples could be years, are we starting to move the dial in the consumer's head, right, in terms of their affinity for our product or brand or service. And then finally, we do ourselves a disservice, and we're going to be displeasing to the CEO and the CFO, if we do not then tie it to the highest levels of metrics used to quantify business performance. Are the dollars that I'm putting in leading to dollars going out in such a way that I'm actually making money? That is the purpose of most businesses. All right? The most critical thing here is that we have to establish linkages. And we go in depth about that in the book, but the idea is that you can correlate those lowest levels of metrics to the next level strategic metrics, to the next level financial metrics. If I do this, it results in this kind of exposure. And if I do that, those metrics lead to the next set, which is correlated with changes in the brand, consideration, and so on, right up to financial metrics. And the very one at the bottom here is that we want to introduce another new term, which is not just reach, which in the internet world tends to be just raw impressions. There was an opportunity to see the message. We say, let's qualify it. Let's make it qualified reach, which means that there has to be some physical manifestation of behavior that suggests there was actual cerebral or emotional engagement going on the part of the consumer. Sometimes, I mean, a click could do that in some cases if you're direct response, but there, am I watching a video? Is there some kind of action I take that suggests I am involved in thinking about your product or brand? It will be a smaller number, a smaller reach number than your raw impressions, but it will be more illustrative of what's really going on with the consumer, and therefore a much more powerful set of metrics.